The goal of this session is to cover in detail code link and onboard system resets for Toyotas. We'll be covering common mistakes and errors made in the process that create the situations where you need to do the reset more than once. So the objective as we complete this will be that you can successfully go through the process one time and obtain your results quickly and easily. Once our alignment is completed, the menu will prompt you to reset the required onboard systems, and we simply will select that with our mouse and or by the use of the K4 key. At this time, you'll notice a screen that indicates that this vehicle may or may not have electric onboard systems that require a reset. If you're unsure, the best thing to do is to either take a look at the chart that's present on the screen or to simply select yes, again, either by the K4 key or by clicking on it with the mouse. You will be provided one more screen with which to verify whether the vehicle has the systems or not. Again, the best answer at this particular time is to simply click on yes or press the K4 key. At that time, we now have our beginning instructions to start our process. 4 very simple instructions, and we will emphasize as we move through this process the importance of doing everything in the order and exactly what is said. For example, when I go to the vehicle here in a moment, we will remove the brake pedal depressor first. If we have an automatic transmission, we will place the transmission in park at that time. Please note that if your Toyota does have a manual transmission, it is required to put it into neutral and apply the parking brake on the car. Failure to apply the parking brake on a manual transmission Toyota will cause a problem within the reset procedures. At that time, we will then turn on the ignition and connect our code link tool. As instructed, we will now remove the brake pedal depressor. Place the transmission into park. This is an automatic transmission vehicle. The ignition switch in the on position. Connect the code link connector tool to the OBD2 connector in the car, located just to the right of the steering column and below the knee bolster. And we have the ignition switch in the on position. Please also verify that the vehicle is communicating by looking at the green lights on the code link tool. At this time, code link will automatically check for pre-existing fault codes. If none are present, the software will automatically advance. If codes are present, they will be displayed on the screen. You may print screen and use that information to resolve the codes. The tool now functions for us as a remote so that we do not have to walk from the car up to the aligner. The keys on the remote match the keys on the bottom of the aligner, and we will simply follow the next instruction on screen, which is continue. The screen then automatically indicates to us the steer ahead position of the car and the condition of the steering angle sensor. Information present on the screen is the vehicle's steer ahead condition. That is obtained from the alignment instrumentation. On the right-hand side is the position of the steering angle sensor in relationship to the vehicle's steer ahead. We have a set of instructions on the screen that again we will need to follow in exacting order. We also need to be sure that when we are talking about step number 1, steering the vehicle straight ahead, that we are talking about using this graph on this side. We need to be in the green. It does not have to be exacting at 0, but the bar graph needs to be full green. One of the mistakes made is many times you try to steer this to 0 and this graph is red. That will cause the program to post a warning that you have made an error in the procedure. So again, this is the steer ahead side. Be sure this one is green. This is the number we'll be correcting in a moment. We will now need to follow in order the steps on the screen. Again, noticing that this time we need to unhook the tool before we turn the ignition off. Do not reverse those two procedures. Then we will also deal with step number 4, which is disconnecting the negative battery cable. A couple of tips about that as we do that is we will talk about not using a memory saver. We will also talk about the appropriate length of time to be disconnected in order to not reset and cause other vehicle systems such as navigation systems, power windows, and other items that rely on battery memory to be reset. As instructed, the vehicle is steered straight ahead. We will now disconnect the code link tool first by unplugging it, setting it aside, turning the ignition switch to the full off position. That means all dash lights in the vehicle off. At that time, you will have a message on the screen letting you know the tool is disconnected. That is a normal part of the process. If that message is at a position on the screen that blocks information, simply place your mouse on it and move it to the side out of your way so that you can see the rest of the instructions. We're now going to pick up at step 4. We've completed the first 3. Step 4 is where we now disconnect the negative terminal of the battery. The thing to understand here is this is a Toyota required procedure. You cannot reset the steering angle sensor on this vehicle unless the battery has been disconnected, and that means no use of a memory saver, any type of an outside power source. What is important though is to note in step 4 the instructions of between 5 and 10 seconds. What will happen if you take the cable off for less than 5 seconds? The system will post a message letting you know that it has not been disconnected long enough to perform the steering angle reset. The reason we want to reconnect by 10 seconds is because if we are disconnected for a total of less than 18 seconds, the vehicle is capable of retaining the other critical system memory. Then when that is completed, we'll follow step 5 to reconnect the battery terminal, and at that particular time, we'll turn the ignition switch on. As a note, before we move into the process, there are additional instructions on this screen. One of the main mistakes made is you see step 6 and you will complete down through here. You will go to the vehicle and turn the switch on, press the continue key. The program will post an error message for you letting you know you've made a mistake and you don't understand what happened. There is one more command on the screen. You will need to use the scroll box on the side and move the bar down to expose step number 7. Fully read every screen. Using a 10mm wrench, we will loosen the negative battery terminal, and I will start a timer. And we will remove the terminal for a minimum of 5 seconds, which is just passed, and around 10 seconds, which is just now arrived, and we'll reconnect the vehicle. This battery terminal connection for the Toyota Prius is in the rear of the vehicle, underneath the rear compartment cover. Now that we have reconnected, we're going to step back to the car and pick up and complete steps number 6 and number 7. We will now turn the ignition on, which means instrumentation illuminated on the dash. We will reconnect the code link tool. Our message on the screen now will indicate the tool is connected. Our green lights are on again. And we will now see by looking at the screen the steering angle sensor has now been set to 0. We will select continue. At this time, the next screen that is shown here will give you a process bar indicating that it can take a couple of minutes to communicate with all the systems on the vehicle and reset other required systems as a part of the process. It's important that you don't move the steering wheel at this particular time, lean on the car door, push on the car, or make any changes in the vehicle. And watching the process bar up on the screen. It will notify us when we are ready to move ahead. At this particular time, the screen is now advanced, indicating that we should look for flashing lights on the dash. For the Toyota, it indicates that the ABS light and the VSC light should be flashing rapidly on the dash. I'll step forward and look into the vehicle, and I will see those two lights flashing. Once that is confirmed, we will now advance to the next screen. Again, the instructions are the same at this time. Don't lean on the vehicle or touch the steering wheel, and now we automatically receive, if we are successful, receive a screen indicating to us that our calibration has been completed. You will see on the top left that steer ahead is green, steering angle sensor is 0. A couple of instructions that are on the screen that are important to us. The second bullet point indicates we need to verify the steering angle sensor is 0 when steered ahead. We do that by taking a look at the screen that's there. The third bullet point, it says some of these vehicles may not have a live sensor. What does that mean? That means if I step up and I touch the steering wheel or steer on the vehicle, you will see the steer ahead bar graph move. You will see the steering angle sensor move itself. These are normal actions for the vehicle. So if you see the movement, that is perfectly fine. Also, it indicates that some of these, that sensor is not alive and that you would move that and would not see the motion. You do not need to be concerned in either way. It is simply the way some of the systems on the car are built. What we need to see is a green graph on the left, 0 on the right, and we are successful with this screen. Advance to the next screen of instructions. At this time, CodeLink automatically checks for system fault codes. If any are present, they are usually caused by errors made during the procedure. You should restart the procedure from the beginning. We now have another instruction on the screen, and we'll take a look at that closely before we do it. Although the simple instructions are really only 2 items, we do need to be sure we do these in correct order. We need to turn the ignition completely off. The recommendation on some models, it may require removal of the ignition key. The tip here is most keys today have an electronic chip in the key. If it is a chipped key, which is highly likely, completely remove the key from the ignition of the vehicle in its off position. Do not simply turn it off and leave the key in the switch. Then we will disconnect the CodeLink tool. Okay? We'll turn the ignition completely off. We will remove the key from the vehicle and place it in the driver's seat. And now we will disconnect the CodeLink tool. Once those steps have been completed, the aligner will automatically advance to our documentation screen. You will have a choice of a printout that will indicate exactly where the system was before the reset and document the fact that it has been successfully completed. Also, on the left-hand side of the screen is a menu from which you could select other printout combinations, and at the bottom of those printouts would be a message indicating that CodeLink and the onboard systems had been successfully reset and the process completed. If you will follow the steps as we talked about here in their exact order, being sure that we follow the small pieces of details exactly as requested, the process to reset the Toyota, including the battery disconnect, is a very quick and easy procedure. Fundamentally, without any details of the instructions that we have talked about here with the car, you're looking at a time span of resetting this car in approximately 4 minutes.